with my colleague, who I know wasn't in Congress at the time, all of the statements made by Republican leaders at that time, begging Donald Trump to send in the National Guard, which he controlled because of the District of Columbia National Guard, and he didn't do it. He sat and he watched it, eating hamburgers or whatever in the White House on TV, ignoring all of the appeals to send the National Guard to come and defend Republican and Democratic members of Congress. And now we've got a law which has put the plaque up in honor of these officers, and they can't do it, but they want to bring a totally partisan resolution to the floor, deploring violence thousands of miles away. And you've got members of Congress from California saying that they're not capturing what actually happened there. But no, it's got to be another opportunity for partisan division.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
As to my colleague from Maryland's claim that this resolution is somehow set up in a partisan way, nothing could be further from the truth. The resolution simply condemns acts of violence. We are opposed to sanctuary policies. We're opposed to putting a target on the back of our federal officers and, frankly, to defunding the police. And it's not our fault that those who have allowed this violence, who have promoted sanctuary policies, who have put a target on the back of our officers, who have called for the defunding of the police, all happen to belong to one party.
They just want to pass a resolution. Their resolution, of course, is completely political. One of their whereas clauses is, whereas California's leadership has prioritized protecting illegal immigrants and violent individuals over U.S. citizens. That's just defamation of the law enforcement officials in California. It is defamation against the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles, the sheriff in Los Angeles County, the chief of police in L.A., all of whom fought to put that violence down when riots broke out. Something Donald Trump never did when the riots broke out that he incited against us. And remember, he was impeached by this body for inciting a violent insurrection against us. So not only did he not do anything to defend us, he was the one who caused the whole chain of events that led to the deaths that took place that day, the violence that took place that day, and my colleague won't utter a word about it.
Mr. Speaker, this notion that the president manufactured a crisis is simply asking us not to believe our eyes. You've actually had members of Congress from California who said that there was no violence, even though we all saw on television cars being lit on fire, Molotov cocktails and bricks being thrown at officers, among many other acts of violence. We had several officers who were injured during the process. And what did the president do? He asked our dedicated National Guard members to come in to protect federal property, to protect federal officers. To say that this somehow was what caused the crisis is not only completely at odds with the facts as we all witness them, but is incredibly offensive to our dedicated National Guard members who went there and have successfully managed to keep the peace. Now, as to my colleague from Maryland, who has now accused us of defamation with this clause, whereas California's leadership has prioritized protecting illegal immigrants and violent individuals over United States citizens, that is simply the very purpose of a sanctuary law, be it California's sanctuary state law or Los Angeles' sanctuary city law. The entire purpose of these laws, their explicit effect, is to provide special protection for those who have not only come into the country illegally, but have committed crimes. I'll give you an example of how sanctuary policies work in practice. We had a case not far from Sacramento, where there was an individual who was in police custody for assaulting a peace officer. He had been arrested. He was in custody. This was during the Biden administration, by the way. ICE saw that he was in custody, and they asked to take custody of him from the sheriff's office so that he could be deported. But the sheriff's office had to say, no, sorry, we're not allowed to do that under the sanctuary state law. The next week, that man murdered his own 3 daughters as well as their chaperone, a horrific crime that never would have happened if not for California's sanctuary policies. And in a similar vein, many of the operations which ICE conducted in a targeted and standard way in L.A. would have been unnecessary if it were not for a sanctuary policy that forbade them from taking custody of these individuals within a custodial setting. So I would simply ask my colleague from Maryland, are we to take it from his remarks that he would support reversing the sanctuary policies that have caused so much harm in California and Los Angeles?